Welcome, everyone. This is Nichel, and I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. We're going to go ahead and get into this. I'm just kind of checking everything, making sure we are ready to go. All right. So, this is my premiere. Thank you so much for tuning back in this year. I really appreciate it. This is going to be my 9th year podcasting. I started back in actually it was November. We'll get into that, to the dates and all, but 2017. And here I am doing my 9th premiere. So I am so excited. I am definitely thankful, okay? Because it has been very interesting, very challenging at one point. Well, I say at several points in a particular year. We'll get into that at the end. But also very exciting and interesting and loving my whole journey here regarding keeping my dream alive, keeping focus, understanding how just learning about when we tell our stories, when we share it, when we're understanding someone else's journey and they're sharing theirs, to all of that, all rolled up into my journey of writing my book, Mitsrsayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt, and turning that into this short story. So I have over the years branched out and created more short stories that I'm happy about. We'll kind of get a little bit into that. And with this today of my premiere, September the 22nd, 2025, I'm very excited of where I am moving forward with my podcast, where I am looking at it in a perspective that it's an accomplishment. 9, if some definitely of y'all know, I love numbers because numbers don't lie. Numbers help to reflect what it is and what it is not. Numbers allow you to as well to celebrate your successes, celebrate what you accomplished. Take the moment to have your tea and your cookie if you have to, okay? And just kind of be in the realm of reaching that mountain. And I feel with my podcast show, I have done that. And so now looking forward to this season, which is season 9. 9 is a wrap-up number. It's a very, very, very strong reconciliation energy, particularly what's going on as well around our everyday reality. So for this to be my 9th year, I feel highly blessed. And we're going to get into 3 parts because this allowed me during my summer break, and I had a good summer. If you followed my, I don't know, I should call those like my journey podcasts when I just kind of check in during my summer months. But I was able to take a step back. I know I did some like guest interviews that was mainly towards related to my music, of my message and everything like that with Egypt and my book and all, and their journey. But it also, I knew that this was the year that I needed to go back, because when I first started podcasting, I just kept creating. And the first 2 years, I was releasing an episode every week. And then I really want to commit to this journey. I really want to give my all. So I'm going to have to just, I can't continue to do this like every episode and every week. And that's when I switched to once, I think every 2 weeks, and then that was too much, and then every week. And now I see that that was putting me in position, if I didn't reach my goal, which is turning my book into a movie, then God had a plan for me to look into music, to have that creation as well on the table. And that led right up to where I started the music journey. And that was like now going on 3 years, which I have completed that. So if you're just tuning in and you was like, oh, she's back. What you been up to? I released my music, my album, still plugging along to get the funding for my film that was released last month on August the 22nd. I announced it on August the 8th. So that album is released. It's entitled When Love Was Divine, which that's one of my episode titles of MOLIAE Short Stories. So anyhow, moving forward, I just want to say wrap on that part that I'm very happy and glad that I'm doing this again. I hope you are too, and you're enjoying my content. And I'm just looking at these years that I've committed to, and it definitely was a journey. So year 9 to me, for me and my journey in this, of podcasting, writing and using podcasting to continue my writing with my short stories. It's a wonderful way for me now to kind of look at all my work. So this summer, I was able to kind of like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of things to put in an organized way that people can really connect to my stories, connect to my message, connect to my purpose, connect to what I was saying then, and now I'm looking back at it. That's what this premiere show would be. It's about going back into my years, looking at my short stories, taking a moment to drink my tea. Let's drink it together if y'all like tea. If you like coffee, whatever, pour you some wine too if that's the case, and to really absorb my creativity that God blessed me to have this talent, the message that God wanted me to share. And what was the message in that episode? What was the purpose of it? What's the lesson? What do you think? How does it make you feel? How does it make me feel? With that, to move forward to the next thing. But before I can do that and look at the next season and what have you, or the next episode, we're going to take that moment to kind of look into everything. So today's podcast is broken up into my director clip notes. We're going to go back to what was the next one I had to do, but then I got really busy, and that's when I kind of went into the music. God said, let's do music, and that's what I've done and completed that to help fund, as you know, my film that my dream is to make my book into a movie. The second part, we're going to review season 1. We're going to start from the beginning. That's like I said, 9 is about a reflection, a repositioning of understanding what it was led to, what was the root of it led to create it, what's the message, and where you go from there. Okay, so we're going to take that time for season 1. So this might come into next month episode and for the rest of this year, as I feel comfortable that at least at this moment of time, I went through and took the time to appreciate, which I have, but to appreciate in a way, I pat myself on the back that I kept going because it's hard on the journey, but you keep going, and to learn another lesson from it. Some people say, be okay when someone give you something. And sometimes we get so busy, we don't even have time to do that. And this is my time to do that. Because when I look back at all those episodes, particularly, I did so much work. I'm like, oh my Lord. And I want to be able to go through that energy and acknowledge it. And then the last part is just my last thoughts about all of it, or what we talked about today. So there is another bonus release on my podcast, and that's an interview. Do check that out. It's a bonus interview, guest interview that I did. And I did that interview, Dr. Warwell, like January of the year where I was releasing more music. And so do check that out. That's a bonus release on this podcast show. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get into this in my premiere, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, Season 9, 2025 to 2026. Come on. Hallelujah. Praising Jesus. Here I am.
Some days I'll sorrow. That's the days of borrowed time. I gotta keep moving. Yeah, that's the kingship in me. Nothing worth having comes easy. I bathe in the knowledge all around me. I own my kingship. Creator of all bestowed upon me. Worthy it is of my leadership. Worthy it is of my leadership. I own my kingship.
Take my seat at the throne. Keep moving.
The kingship always worry you.
Creator of all bestowed upon me.
Can't give me one
Worthy it
more.
is of my leadership.
Kingship
Worthy it is of my
Keep
leadership.
moving.
I own my kingship. Worthy it is of my leadership. I own my kingship. Worthy it is of my leadership.
Let's get started. All right, so the last episode that I did a director clip notes was on episode 59. And you might hear some paper moving around because this is a lot of things that I had to organized, to put it in a perspective that when we all go back, it's nice and catalyzed to understand it. And then once you understand where things fit, when did this happen, where that's at, and it's all nice, like and bins I like to use, bin number 1, bin number 2, and so forth, and on and on. It helps us to get that cleared away, checked off, and then get into the content to understand it. So the last episode that I did a director clip notes was episode 59. It was entitled Moments of Love of a Queen and King of Mitsrsayim. That was published, I have a date on here, in April the 4th, 2022. So back then I was doing directed clip notes not on like a particular schedule. I just kind of did it when I felt the need that it's time for me to stop releasing these stories and then take a moment to go back. So this is the first time in the history of my podcast show that I'm actually premiering a director clip note. I never did that. So my director clip notes is where, as a director of creating the content, that's like with film, which I love film. I can't wait to go back doing filming, particularly for my book, okay? To get that done, is that you're able to come behind the scenes of the creative work, and you're able to understand what led to the decision to release the content. That could be with music, that could be definitely with film. This is the content of my podcast, writing the stories, recording it, editing and releasing it. And it's almost, you're kind of like into that whole energy of a presentation of my work, even though we're doing like podcasting, we're not doing video with it. So my directed clip notes helps me to also answer questions that you might have of what's going on in the scene. Why did that scene was the scene it was released, that type of thing. So let's go ahead and kind of get into episode 60. Episode 60 is entitled We Remember the Times. It was published May the 2nd, 2022. Right now it has 1,189 downloads. I said I was going to start doing that when I'm doing these director clip notes, just to kind of give some numbers, right? Let's talk about it. I am going to have a separate podcast to talk about another short story that I had plans to start, and I think this is going to be the year. So that is regarding my NFTs. So that's the NFTs titled Pyramid Mystery Temporal Reunion. In short, it's P as in Paul, M as in Monday, T as in Tom, R as in Rainbow. And so we'll kind of get into that. We have enough time, but it will be a separate podcast for that. And then eventually releasing those stories. I also, just to touch on my YouTube channel at MOLIAE, I do have plans to create animation of these MOLIAE short stories. So let me get into that before we get into 60 of my clip notes of that. So let's go through my short stories. Like, they're different timelines, different themes. The main one, my heart of heart, is the MOLIAE Short Stories. MOLIAE stands for Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt. It was part of a theatrical production when I was here in Atlanta. Someone advised, do the play. No, it always should be a movie. That's what I saw when I wrote the book, now over 2 decades now. And that was a short version of it. And then I put short stories because I always felt that it was going to be more stories that I'm going to be able to write. And that's where you get And Beyond of my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. So you have that as the main that I started in 2017. That was on November the 8th, 2017. I started my podcast show. It ended around May, and that was May the 28th, 2018. That was season 1. And later I started branching into what I felt a calling to do, Atlantis. So right now, MOLIAE Short Stories really has the most episodes because I started it first. And the next bin of short stories is Atlantis. Atlantis has right now 8. And don't quote me on it because I don't have my other double check the notes. I thought I was up to 10. On Atlantis, I have not done no director clip notes. Back on MOLIAE Short Stories, I have done director clip notes up to 59. I have released 69 episodes of MOLIAE. So this podcast is going to be our main perimeter to go back to check all the data and the notes and where we at, because that's how much work I have done. So if we recap, MOLIAE Short Stories was the first. For the first 2 years I did podcasting, it was only MOLIAE Short Stories. As of today in 2025, I have done up to 69 episodes here, because then I started only releasing them at the end of my season. So out of the 69, I'm up to 59 that I did direct to clip notes. And today I'm going to do number 60 episode. I had to stop, of course, like I said, because of my music. And then the next bin is Atlantis. I did a total of 8 episodes and I have done no direct to clip notes. So I might get to Atlantis direct to clip notes this season 9, or that might go into the summer going into season 10. The next bin is where I felt the connection to Mahogany. I wrote a short story years ago when I was over the Harlem Renaissance columnist manager, and that's where Mahogany is the timeline of the 1920s, right around the Harlem Renaissance. I'm up to 7. I call this my bonus short stories. And the last directed clip notes on that was Mahogany Part 4. So I'm like 3 that I haven't done yet, and I'll be starting on Mahogany 5. I know for sure I will not be able to get to my directed clip notes on that. That might be during the summer of next year, or maybe going into season 10. The next bin of short stories is MOLIAE Love Groove. That's from my YouTube channel, and I just felt to kind of create something where I'm just talking about, get some music you can listen to with your boo. So that's on my YouTube channel. It's called the MOLIAE Love Playlist. You can actually see like some of that on MOLIAE.com homepage. If you scroll down, it's like a live stream I was doing where I decided to create a story about it. So that's modern day time right now. I have done, it looks here, 3 short stories bonuses entitled MOLIAE Love Groove. So the very first one I see here that I did was in March. Let me make sure I'm looking at this right. Yeah, March the 18th, 2024. It was episode number 1. Hey you, I miss you. I gotta go check that out. And that's 3 that I haven't done my director clip notes. The director clip notes for the next bin is the future series of Nahor and Princess Aamina. So that's a timeline where the podcast show is before the time of my book. So the first episode is before the time of Princess Aamina, all the way up until now. And then I felt the need to talk about when Nahor and Princess Aamina, it's just them two. It's not the other kings, all these other people. And I'm so happy that I was able to have time to do my directed clip notes. And that's episode all the way up to episode number 7 I got here. Y'all, I'm done. That's what I got here. So I'm happy about that. So all of the future series of Nahor and Princess Aamina, those director clip notes are done. So you can search for that and kind of listen to my perspective, giving you behind the scenes, talking about this and that. Korean Empress I am. I got it done. Okay. The next bin is the new that I'm excited about, and that's a whole different gigantic universe. That is my NFTs, PMTR. The stories have not formulated for me to release it, right? Because I haven't got a chance to think about it since I've been doing these other things. And you also can get actually NFTs now with my music for my songs cover. That's a separate bin. There's not going to be stories with that. That just be NFTs you can purchase on MOLIAE.com. When you purchase the song, you get that, and it's like made at that time. This here is on MOLIAE World, the PMTR. I am going to move my NFTs catalog for my songs, my music on MOLIAEworld.com. But this initially started up with my pyramids art, and it's 10,000 pyramids, different ones, different meanings, have numerology and astrology on it. There's also a story. You can go to my Twitter, MOLIAE World, that I break that down, and also on the website. So that's coming in the future. My goal was to kind of release episode 1. So that's something new and exciting this season in season 9 to look forward to. It might go into season 10, but I have a good feeling that I'm going to be able to get that done this season. So I'm excited about that PMTR. That's a huge, huge gigantic project, okay? And it ties into the NFTs that you can get now, and a story is attached to it. And then I have a future for the game, okay? All right. So we went through all those bins of my short stories of my podcast show. So this direct to clip note review is mainly going to be for MOLIAE to get caught up. I have 10 that I need to do to get caught up. So I might not be able to get Atlantis, definitely not Mahogany, and definitely not MOLIAE Groove. But it's okay. We're going to move forward. So here we are. Let's get it done. Let's get into episode 60. So episode 60, I don't really think it wasn't that long. And I think this is just my reflection of it, because I do want to talk about season 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play episode 60. All right, let's kind of play. Let me let that play.
River, that anything is possible when you see no power to it. She smiled as she then ate the dates that she held. Milan nodded and thought of her wisdom, and then he said, "Indeed." He got up as he took his glass of wine from Mitsrsayim, and he reached for her hand to walk to the balcony to observe a more view of the surroundings. They stared outward, silent. Then he said, "Why do you think it is so important in the beginning to know what our heart seeks of another?" She took in a breath and thought of his words and smiled before she spoke. "I think it is the journey of one's soul that seek to learn what is that the heart wants, but may not know how to obtain what it needs." Milan nodded and then responded, looking at Hagar. The journey. Hagar placed her head on his shoulder while nodding as well. As Milan took a sip of his wine, he thought all of the moments that they shared up to now and what the next moment would be. Then he said, "The hardest part is saying the words that will change your life. It holds time to consider the next phase, to be with the one or not. I am pleased to be in alignment with my soul to choose to be with you. You always encourage the divinity in me to stand of my word." Queen Hagar smiled and beamed, looking up at him. "And so do you of me." Suddenly, she heard something as someone approaching them. But Milan quickly got her attention by stating, "And today brings forth a memory set in time." He then spoke in Semitic Akun language. "Akase veret sana luvu wa haga." Translation: Our anniversary today, when I first said the words, "I love you, Hagar." She burst into tears and surprise of this, wasn't expecting it at all. And then she saw young Princess Hannah carrying this huge wrapped gift with Queen Mother Mena, Elder Tahib, as well, with other invited guests, enter the domain of the level that they were at. Princess Hannah placed the gift on the table, ran into Queen Hagar open arms, that she was still crying. And then Princess Hannah said, "We love you, Mother. You are the one we admire." Queen Hagar hugged Princess Hannah and kissed her on the cheek, and then looked back at Milan. Milan said the words again, honoring the day he took the step forward into the unknown looked into Queen Hagar's eyes and spoke in Semitic, the Kun language. Haba Nab Eggs Val Sinna Lu Ra Hagar. Translation: Happy anniversary. I love you, Hagar. Queen Hagar beamed, still holding Princess Anna in her arms, and said, You always know the words that soothe my soul, mind, spirit, and heart, that forever will be in love with you. Insane.
So let's move forward. So I am familiar with this episode. What led me to the titles coming to my mind to share that with y'all is that, I don't know, I think with Egypt, once you've been there, once you connect with it spiritually, you'll never forget it. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you've been or what you see right now. Is there something about it draws you to the history of it, draws it to that energy? Just now me talking about it, I feel this wave of connecting to it, loving it, feeling home, feeling, that comfort food that we say here in the States. And we remember the times. It's basically an episode where King Milan and Queen Hagar, they spend some time together. They go on this cruise. Like back then, sailing was the type of entertainment. I wouldn't say the, but it was close to it. So what I remember for my soul and my spirit, the journey, is that it was a way that you can kind of escape like the day and all this and that. And you just enjoying nature, the scenery, the desert sands, the pyramids, all of that. And you're not in trying that you're having all these meetings, doing this and that. You're just really enjoying each other. So this is actually was a surprise for Queen Hagar. And again, this is May the 2nd to the 22nd. We're basically ending, let me look here, ending season 5. And so this was a time where you just kind of like, I wanted to reflect, have some type of like a moment where you're just enjoying being in love, glad you in love, happy you in love. So this is a very romantic type episode. So if you wanted to kind of listen to it to kind of get into that groove, right? This would be one of the episodes. In this particular one, I'm not gonna give too much away, but the main point takeaway is when I was re-listening to it, it was towards the end where he surprises her and he says this wonderful short um, statement to her, almost like it's a speech, but it's not. And then she comes back with the most lovely ending of what to say to him. And then I end the scene. So we remember the times. It's about one, remembering the love of what brought us together, remembering the purpose of the love and the message. Right before Queen Hagar responds to what he says, I make a notation that she's holding Princess Hannah. Because again, this timeline of my podcast show, period, is before the time of my book. My book, if you're just joining me, is my memoir, Living in Egypt. It's titled Mitsrsayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt. That's the book that I've been still plugging away to come up with the funding to film it. Because that's what I saw when I just wrote it spiritually. It was just, I just had to write it out or type it out at that time. And it was so many pages, it became a book. So that's what my dream been all these years, creating this podcast show, doing all these other things tied to Egypt for that dream to manifest, to make it a film. And so it's about love, it's about family, it's about choices. And this shows that they're happily married. It shows that they understand. And I think just now looking at it, I think when I wrote it as well, it's like sometimes you look at your boo and they're like, okay, we'll do this, and they're supporting you, but they really need what they've been waiting on. And so now I'm just kind of looking at this and remembering those parts of it. He's remembering, what she needs. So it's a very giving type episode. So I highly recommend to take the time to listen to it. I'm going to have some parts play, and then you can go check out the rest of the full episode. I have the link in the description. So my directed clip notes to add more to this is that my overall mission was to connect with Egypt, to show the love. I guess that's the title, MOLIAE, Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt, to provide a way that to show what love is. I like to kind of emphasize that on my journey now. I just continue to see what's not love, even though I was giving the healthy love, and to make sure it's defined, because people can say that don't mean they mean it or they do it. So whenever, and I learned this, like I said, from my surrogate mother, Maya Angelou, when someone show you who they are, you believe it. Now that can be hard to swallow, that can be hard to understand, but when they show the opposite of what your heart needs, then that's the problem. In this episode, I'm showing everything, what it is and what it looks like and what it's supposed to be. That's the takeaway. That's the message. And my additional clip notes on that, when I directed to, in a sense of how I wanted to play out from what I wrote in this episode 60, We Remember the Times, was remember what love is. Remember what few words can say can change someone's perspective like that. Do it if you mean it. We're talking about realness, not like, oh my gosh, did it really mean that? All that spirit of doubt. You don't want that. And this right here episode shows truth and the foundation of love. Y'all, I know it's hard. Trust me. You preaching to the choir over here. You preaching to the choir. But true love does exist. True love to me is the word of God, is Jesus. Jesus is truth. It's simple. You don't take, you give. When you give, you shall receive. So this here is, we remember the times. It's very special in the sense of it's love. It's make you smile. It makes you kind of understand, feel comfortable. Like curl up with a blanket with your boo. Come on. There ain't no crazy stuff. You know what I mean? Ain't no mind games. Ain't none of that. It's giving and receiving and celebrating someone else's success. That's when you know someone love you. When they celebrate your success, I mean, seriously, that's love. When they remember a certain date that matters to you, that's love. When they remember the times when it was just you and the other person, I had the best time, that's love. All right. That's my clip notes. Let's move on to the second part, which would be reviewing my season 1. And I love this right here. So I picked 2 episodes. The first episode is Before the Time of Princess Aamina. That was my first episode. I love it. I love it. I love it. It was so, because that was the one that I had to decide, am I going to do 2 podcast show? Because as me, I'm always like helping people, and I was doing it on my Twitter page. And I feel like I need to be, I'm writing these tweets and people are really getting it. They was like really, people was really liking it. And so far I got a lot of comments. It's like really engagement. So I'm like, I want to do more. I want to be able to expand this. And that's when I thought maybe I do a podcast show and take the quotes and then talk about it more in depth, because it's hard to kind of do that when you tweeting or what have you. I just kind of did like 1 or 2, but that's not enough because you still only got a certain amount of characters. So my podcast was a perfect resolution to that, for me to be able to talk longer and to really expand on it. So I did that. And then of course, it was like, I don't know, it was led to me to say, why don't you do something for you, And that is your dream and what you love to do, which is write stories and your book. And that's how I took this step on faith and I did my podcast, which I'm so happy I did, because that helps to keep my dream alive. That helps to kind of get me into the flow of what I'm trying to do. So, with all of that, here's my podcast show. So, I did that, and here it is, 2025. I have not missed a season, and I just expanded the show to other short stories, as you just heard, as I put them in bins of these short stories additionally that I've done, not only about Egypt. And of course, they kind of tap here and there, except Mahogany. But nonetheless, I've done all that all these years for 9 years. So when I look at season one in that particular episode, I'm gonna have you download and listen to the whole. I might have clips. Let me see, show a clip. Each column stood Royal Abbas guards, equal to 20 in weight. There stood Queen Hagar, looking out to the blue Nile with her back to everyone. At a distance, young Princess Hannah, at the age of 7 years old, sat watching her mother with 4 royal female attendants. For this was another moment to observe as directed as so. Scuffle of sounds echoed as Notul of the Orion's High Council entered with Comrade Dachar and 10 royal guards. Did anyone see him enter the hall of Banu to come here? Queen Hagar spoke. Nata, I know how to, as so. Nontu interrupted Comrade Dachar before he could answer. That is true, Queen Hagar. No one else knows of this moment, responded Comrade Dachar. We have seen your position to handle this matter. I have moved to. Should not the king of Mitsrsayim make such a move? For abruptly she turned around to face Natu, speaking in his Orion language. Translation. I stand as the sole ruler, as my king mate awaits to return. Remember that. Shocked Notu was he. Shocked Natu was he. Their eyes locked for seemed eternity as silence filled the room. Natu nodded once before the queen. Queen Hagar started to speak in Sumerian cuneiform. Neototo it nam makundu et te toto solo alalasifo. Translation. I move to wait 3 Aspu days before I choose your position or not. Comrade Dachar, lead him out of my presence. I wish not to see or smell of his deeds that led to this moment. As you wish, Queen Hagar, replied Comrade Dachar. It just shows the determination to kind of move forward, the determination to, create this content and then release it, and then, can be able to go back and understand the reasoning of it. So that particular one, that was released again on my premiere. I started my show in November because that's when it was dawned on me, like, you're doing all this for other people. Now it's time for you. And when I wrote it, I was so happy about it. It was my first time doing something in the sense of a short story, because the other podcast show that I did for my Twitter page, Surviving Your Journey to a Success, was just me talking about the quotes that I was coming up with and breaking it down to help people, motivational type thing. And it's the first time I took my book from a book form to an actual podcast that now I didn't have to worry about, because doing plays, which I didn't really want to do, was very tenacious. It's very, you're dealing with different personalities and all that drama. I'm going to leave it at that. Spinning this and that. And here I can sit back and really don't have to be with all these other energies and people, and I could just be me. Blessed to have the talent to write and to tell my story. So this is the first time where I just kept seeing this vision of Queen Hagar. Was in my book. She played my mother. And at that time, it was before Princess Amelia, so it was Princess Hannah. And I want to go back to one part when I talk about the last episode. The director clip of episode 60 is where you show love and how you can reflect of it's a balanced love when she held up and was holding Princess Hannah. And that shows the family, that shows the connection. I just want to make sure go back to that point. So fast forward what I'm talking about now with this episode 1. I definitely loved the whole thing. It brought in a new character. Those are the Orions. I think it's Natu. Don't quote me on it, y'all. Guess he's playing the villain or what have you, the Orion. And Queen Hagar is there. And King Milan, he's off state, he's off scene, he's out the scene, but he reappears, and I believe that's in episode 2. Episode 2 is There Is Another Day, and that was released on November the 20th, 2017. So my number one and my first episode before the time of Princess Amelia, I definitely love the end where it just came through. Well, I think in the beginning it did because I started talking in a different language. Y'all go with it. And I felt I needed to translate it. So it's like feeling the energy, feeling what the language sounded like. Like back then, it was, of course, ancient Sumerian, but it was other different languages. And then I felt I need to say translation. And that's how I got that. And then towards the end, I have Princess Hannah, which is the oldest sister of Princess Amelia. And she speaks that language. And then I say translation. And then she says it. And I just love that part at the end. And that shows the grooming of queenship. That shows the grooming of respectability to her mother, how much she loved him. I know in the book they kind of go this and that because she don't want to marry who they want to marry. But you can show that in the beginning they had a very close relationship, very loving relationship, very respectful. She watched her mother. And so in that, she's watching her mother, in a sense, Queen Hagar. At that moment, she is the ruler of Mitsrsayim, which is, we say that's Kemet or ancient Egypt. So King Milan, like his authority, has been relinquished to Queen Hagar for something that this Orion the two has did. That's the opening scene. Okay? I know. In the name of God, I'm talented, okay? In the name of Jesus. I'm ready to do my movie, okay? Nevertheless, that's it. And then it ends like that. And then it goes up to a whole nother level again in episode 2. So I would have to say season 1 is the season you want to know what's going on now in 2025 and what's coming, is to understand and study season 1. And you start it with this first episode, Before the Time of Princess Aamina, which is before my book. Is the root of it, kind of, you could think of it that way. And of course, the feature series of Nahor and Princess Aamina is like a little bit before the book, but it's after this timeline of my podcast show. So I'm going to repeat that. The podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, is before my book timeline. Mitsrsayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt. That's when Princess Amelia is on the scene with Nahor and so-called fake people here and there. And Princess Hannah, I'll get it out, is there as well, and so forth. It's about 50 characters in my book, but the podcast show is before all of that. So Princess Amelia is not on the scene. So therefore, that's why you have the first episode, Before the Time of Princess Amelia. And that's where the first scene opens up. I'll never forget it. I just kept seeing Queen Hagar. She's there and she's talking and she's standing up where the throne is behind her. And she has this person that is considered, I knew that really wasn't, from here. And I called him Nutu. And I just felt he was from Orion and something about that star constellation. And then I felt that like the image of Princess Hannah really wasn't, I couldn't see it yet. And then later as I was writing, then I saw her, but she was sitting like she can see Queen Hagar. She got the best seat. And I always felt that was the grooming part. Like, and they did that back in the day, that she was there because Queen Hagar went off. And so normally you don't let the children see that unless you're teaching them something. And that's what I felt. And it concluded that in the end when Princess Hannah was able to speak in a sense because Princess Queen Hagar handled it and then she spoke. And that's what she said, in so many words that, yes, I hear you, mother. I'm following whatever you say. Thank you. And I love you. And they, leave that royal throne of authority together in royal formation with the guards and all of that. I might have clips. Let me see, show a clip.
Natu hesitated before nodding and then angrily looked away before leaving the room. Queen Hagar noticed Ezra, the high royal herbalist, entered the room. She nods to him. Queen Hagar then smiled briefly to comfort Princess Hannah, that was still wide-eyed in awe of the previous moment. She nods to the female attendants to take Princess Hannah and leave before, telepathically, she tells Hannah, "We will be with one another soon to talk." Princess Hannah, now at ease, at peace, smiling at her mother, nods and responded in Samoan cuneiform. Osho ana etu. Translation: Ashe, mother. Few moments later, Queen Hagar enters the Yana Hall, far north end of the Abbas Palace in Mitsrsayim.
Insane.
But yes, so that's this is the season 1. The second episode I want to say that I really love and want to hold on is Upon Truth, Mysteries Are Revealed. It's episode 3 that was released November the 27th, 2017. So those are the 2 out of a whole bunch of episodes I released in my first season, which is 2017 to 2018. I highly recommend That's What You Study. Also, when I jump ahead to my PMTR that's coming, it's a whole, the universe is so huge, it's almost infinite. It does touch on and connects to Egypt because it's a part of the pyramid lineage. All right. So I feel like my stories are of divinity. I feel like my stories are a message from God. I feel like my stories are a message from ancestors. I feel that my stories are profound, that it has a purpose. And it's not to lead people astray, it's to lead them to their destiny. It's to lead them to understanding what they're going through. It's almost like a rest stop. And you do that, you refresh and da 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 da. I feel like mine's is sometimes my stories that I'm starting, I can say that, like the MOLIAE Love Groove, but like particularly with MOLIAE, it's actually you either staying forever or you're on vacation, right? On this island or whatever for a while, and you being not just entertained, but influenced, encouraged, and motivated. It's the whole feast. So season 1 is it. So again, those would be my 2. I will have those links in the description so you can check it out. All right. And I'm going to stop. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the next clip. This is going to be Upon Truth, Mysteries Are
At far
Revealed.
distance, the
Episode
council
3.
appealed before him. There sat the 8 that could hold his fate. Upon telling them the not so good news from Mitsrsayim, Echo, the head leader from the Orion skies, spoke first as he felt Natu was about to reveal something not pleasing to the council. Speaking in Orion, Na te fenakum, nato fenakum. Translation: You made it here in one regard, I see. Natu nodded, avoiding direct eye contact. Echo did not like Natu's silence, again speaking in their Orion language. Hekono felen sikoto ahan. Translation: Did you speak to the king's royal elders, or you did not? Silence. Finally, Natu speaks. Neu. He felt the fury rise in the damp cave surrounding him. Echo yelled with fury in their language. Yoko! Translation. Why? Silence. Natu speaks slowly. Nichel Henono Besi Kuma Nafe Heko Nata Alonita Pinu Seko Nona Nanau Nafe Esowa.
All right. I think my best of that one, episode 3, is this again. I was like going complete forward, moving, jumping into it, just let my creativity go. And it kind of reminded me of the Atlantis one. We are amongst the truth seekers of Akune. But I just kind of like went into character mode, whatever, into the whole creativity. And this one right here with episode 3, Upon Truth, Mysteries Are Revealed, is where her secret, and see, I loved it too because when I wrote the book, it was just, I had to just focus, I just had to get it done. And it was coming out so fast that it took a while for me just to stop to acknowledge what I created. Other people was reading it and was able to have the leisure. I didn't. I had to kind of get it out. And then now looking back at this one, that guard, like a lot of characters, I couldn't bring everybody out when I wrote the book. It was up to 50, which is a lot to keep track of. And it was my first time writing. So think how divine timing, purpose that is to write that book. And so with this episode, it was the guard that was a secret spy that was assigned to Queen Hagar. And I just felt that he honored the responsibility. His rank to me, and I'm gonna mess up the name, Hekete. His rank is almost over the general of Egypt. I mean, think about that. That's what the energy I picked up. And I remember I just kept seeing this vision where we're on this balcony. It's at night in Egypt, and she sensed or picked up that someone's coming. And of course, that's her secret spy, her military, da da da. At the end, when he's taking in what she's saying, and he says that, I mean, I just loved it. And that was where I was again practicing talking in a different language to make it really flow. So I love that at the end. Unto mate, my queen. I might be saying it differently, but nevertheless, that I really love.
Arshe. Moments came before the two. She turns around knowing someone was entering the royal balcony. It was Helik, the second highest rank of the southern region of Mitsrsayim guard, and the secret military spy of the royal family. She felt his concern. He bowed before the queen and handed her a rolled-up papyrus scroll. She unrolled the scroll and read it. The writing was in Cimarron cuneiform. She looked back up at him. Send 400 of our military forces on the banks of Ganuto. Comrade Dachar is on our side. I feel as so. And Comrade Dachar will send the message to him for Mitsrsayim and the world family. Our military force will seal the message. Unto Arce, my queen, replied Helik, before leaving the royal balcony and faded into the grand enclave hall of the royal palace. End scene.
All right. So we have that. Let's get to my overall, what I'm thought about, what I talked about, and where we go from here. This particular season of season 9 is me taking the time. It's about of season 9. It's going to be about me taking the time to reflect on the episodes of when I created it and the different parts in those episodes. And I felt good about episode 60. It matches up that I'm on purpose, I'm on the right path because it matches up to my album. Come on now. That I released last month, August the 22nd. Look at that. August the 22nd of 2025, and I'm starting my podcast show. Hallelujah. Today, September the 22nd, 30 days later in 2025, I started my podcast show November the 8th, 2017. Look at that, the 8th, November. That's the 11th month. That's a portal in the name of Jesus. Come on. Fast forward. I released my first album by myself, and it's 12 songs. In that song, come on, it's a cover song that led me to, I am not going to tear up. Jesus. Moments of Love by Art of Noise. That if it wasn't for that song, it would have been very hard for me to write. It was like I couldn't write the next page because something else was missing from the recipe, and that was the music. And when I listened to the music, it was flowing out like the Nile River. And here I am releasing it, my album, in the month of August, right before my season starts, which is in September. And I started in November because around that time I was starting the other podcast show, and I was coming to terms like, you know what? That's what, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 2 podcast shows. And I stayed committed to that, releasing all those episodes weekly. And so then I decided I need to kind of reduce it to how many times I release it. And that's when I came up with a schedule. I'll start my premiere in September and I ended in May and then had the summertime off. That was the best decision. That was courageous of me to say, this is what I want to do. I know I had research before. They said, you got to do it every time. You got that. That's insane. You do it what's best for you. So I took the chance and I did it, and look, it took off. I have over 100,000 downloads when you add up all these years. So I would say my overall takeaway for my journey here is that I'm thankful and of where I took it from to where I'm going. And thank you so much for accompanying this journey. So the next episode will be focusing still on season 1. I feel like I need to do that when I go back and I look at all that I did, all the things I tried to kind of like generate revenue wise and all of that, those clip notes. I want to kind of go back and also this helps me to organize. I'm thinking now in my future I can organize and compact it into, those series. You can buy it and then, or, I can have it. Well, yeah, you can buy it. That helped me to fund my film. But also kind of keep it organized where it's all one. It's like you can get season 1, you can get season 2, like that, how they do in those series, those TV shows, what have you. And to do that with my podcast show. And then that helps me to keep everything organized if I want to go back and listen to it. And yeah. All right. So that's my takeaway, my overall. And I will have other interviews that I plan to roll out. Do check out my schedule. I should have that in the description. If not, you can find it on MOLIAE.com. If you want my music, you can go to MOLIAE.com/shop. Or I think my album, my album is there. And that's Nichel MOLIAE, which is entitled, the album, When Love Was Divine. And my MOLIAE World is my NFTs, particularly with my pyramid mystery temple. So do God for that future episode. And I'm looking forward to this season. Thank you so much. I'm Nichel Anderson. And guess what, y'all? I'll talk to y'all in the next one.
You can say his name is Jesus, he's the new game, the source I am. For reality, I run this gold bills of notoriety. We gotta bring it, cause we came from Mars. We rise for the crown, plus we got all the bars. I'm the emperor of MOLIAE, I know who I are.
Was born with my purpose birthright. MOLIAE Kismet of world dynasties. MOLIAE Kismet of world destinies. Get your own success if you're blessed without call my chest. I never rest because I am the best. In this world of my purpose, my choices defeated all the rest. Jesus said, here you are, Queen Empress. Now I grant here, my besties. They are Emperor Kings. From Mars, Atlantis, ATL, here we are, here we are, here we are. Getting it, we are gold, we don't mold, we hold. We are the new renaissance of MOLIAE Kismet. Who am I? Remember the times, can't wait till we live in the MOLIAE world. That we are no longer critique. Oh wait, it's now MOLIAE world.